Hello and welcome to My Voice podcast. I'm Alex Wilkinson, a sport and exercise psychology student from Loughborough University. I'm currently on an internship with Sport and Communities, who are a community development organisation that supports all members of the community, from young to old, across a broad spectrum of needs. This podcast is part of the My Voice project, a national community lottery funded programme that helps to give young people a voice in their community and a platform for creating change and social action. Thank you for taking the time to join me, and welcome to My Voice podcast.
Today we're going to be discussing techniques of saving money and conversation about money generally, because money can sometimes be seen as an elephant conversation, and we shouldn't actually be worried or stressed about talking about money. I'm joined by two guests today. We've got Dave Richards and Adrija, who have both been on many podcasts before. So welcome, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We're getting to the stage of...
I'm good, thank you as well.
We're getting to the stage of lockdown now where we can all start going out and doing new things. Have you experienced anything different this weekend? Did you go out and enjoy the new lowered restrictions?
I didn't necessarily. I think it was interesting to read like how many people have actually gone out and that sort of thing. And I think it's been relatively quite minor in some respects that not many people have actually gone to the pubs and that sort of thing. And I know that there is obviously. I think that was one of the biggest calls from the general public around the lockdown easing, and I think it's very interesting that, particularly in my local area, there hasn't really been the case. So
no,
that's strange, really.
I think people are finally kind of being a bit more cautious, so less people are coming out, which is good. Yeah.
I think as we're heading out of lockdown now as well, with many more restrictions being eased, some of our listeners at home will have noticed that they will have actually saved money, and some of the listeners may have noticed that they actually spent similar amounts during lockdown. And I think it's quite interesting to understand your own spending habits and what you can do to help save some extra cash each month. So as a light-hearted question to start with, would you say that you've been spending similar amounts as to before lockdown? Because I know my online shopping has certainly increased during lockdown. I was just interested to see about the both of you.
I mean, for me, it's been, I think very different in terms of what I'm spending money on. I think I'm definitely been spending less. But I think it's been for more alternatives to what I had initially. So, for instance, I bought myself one of those because I'm a regular gym goer. I prefer to go. I like going to the gym, and obviously during the lockdown, that's one hobby that's been taken away from me. So I bought a resistant band set, which, to be honest, I've only ever used once. It cost me £25, and to be honest, I wish I never bought it. I think we try and find these alternatives to like, when we're in this kind of period of uncertainty, to try and have that normality. But particularly for me, it's just been saving money on fuel. Particularly, it's been the big thing.
100%. Fuel was one of my biggest outgoings almost each week, driving to Stoke and back to the office, and I noticed that massively. That was quite a big financial relief as such, not having to put petrol in your car.
Mm.
What about yourself, Adrija? As a student, similar to myself, have you found that you've been saving money, or do you reckon that you've spent similar amounts? Because it's very hard to almost not spend money as well. It's just as easy as to...
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not easy, no. But on a whole, I think I have been spending a lot less. My main spending was sort of on like transport, taking the buses every day to university or work, and obviously with that all being everything moving online now, I'm not having that expenditure. So it's strange, um, not going into university every day, but I'm saving a lot of money in that aspect, which is good.
Would you
And
prefer going into university and spending that money rather than saving it and getting that one-to-one lecturing?
yeah, that's the thing. I think both have like good and bad aspects. Obviously, in going into university, there's the social aspect. You get to meet all your friends and get to speak to lecturers actually as well, which is quite nice. And it gives you a sort of routine as well throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas with like online lectures being pre-recorded and just you're kind of left to your own devices just to kind of do the lectures whenever you want. So, it gives you that independence, but also it's kind of nice having a sort of fixed schedule, but, different people have different preferences.
Definitely, and it's interesting this week to see that 12 universities around the country have said that they may have to disband and go into administration because they won't have the money to stay open.
Really?
And that side of it's quite interesting because we all know that we're paying a lot of money for our student fees at £9,250. It's a lot of money from each student, and so it's incredible that some universities are actually struggling financially. But recently, I think so many people will have been getting used to and adjusting to a different way of life. People have been able to find ways of saving money at home or finding ways that they don't actually need to spend money on going out or eating out or drinking out or doing menial things that cost money. And I saw something the other day that I thought was quite cool. If you spend £13.70 a day, so I think £13.70 in my eyes is, let's say, a few drinks, let's say a coffee and a fizzy drink in the afternoon and maybe food in the middle, and something else. Like £13.70 isn't a lot when you think of your transport if you're going somewhere. And if you spent £13.70 a day for a whole year, that'd be over £5,000. And when I heard that, I thought, God, that's so much money.
That is, yeah.
And for so many young people now, saving money is a real struggle. I know I'm speaking from my own experience as well, because you've got so many outgoings and everything. But if you think of saving £13.70 every day, that money can go towards a house deposit. But we're not really taught many ways or techniques to save money. Our education system doesn't teach us about money. It doesn't teach us on ways to save money. And that's, I think, something that we only get from our parents or our peers, or maybe things that we look for in other areas of life. But I think money saving so important to us all.
I think it's an interesting note that you mentioned that there's nothing around money and finances when you're in your education. If you say, I think the education system is fantastic in our country, and I think we're very lucky to have an education system like we do. However, I feel that there are some areas where young people need that kind of support, because I think it's like taking a driving test. I believe you don't actually learn until you've actually passed your test. The passing the test is the basics, and then you actually learn about the road and actually doing it with experience moving forward. And that was especially for me. So I think it's a similar thing in education, where you learn as you get your education continues, but beyond the actual education, if that makes sense. It's a strange one around that. I mean, for me, it's like I think a technique I certainly use is I use. It sounds bad, but it sounds a bit strange, but I use percentages. So I say that a certain percentage of my income every month is savings, purely for savings, and that's it. So it's that gets put away, but it gets put into a certain pot. So it gets put into a pot for something like that, like renovations or work on the house. It could be to save up for, like I'm saving up to go on my mate's stag do next year. So that's one thing to take into account, and it's all those really. It's really important to
It is really
have
important.
that, I think.
And I think we get those ideas sometimes by the people around us. But for anyone that is listening, sometimes just going away and having a little search on Google or watching some videos on YouTube on techniques on how to save money and areas that you can save money in. Because I know something that more people have definitely got interested in over lockdown, because with the current situation, we're going to be going into a lot of financial difficulty in the years to come. I think the government have said that they've agreed to a £2 billion bailout for lots of different sectors, and they're looking of ways of creating jobs. But what do you guys think? Do you think we will see prices increase in normal living? Do you think the price of haircuts will go up, because they've not been able to cut hair for the past 3 months? I know that barbers have actually been putting their prices up once we've come out of lockdown, and nobody can argue with that. They've not had a stable income for the past 12 weeks. But I'm just wondering if there's other stories that you've heard, or any other areas in life where you think, the money or the price of that could end up increasing.
I've been looking at my I've been looking at my own financial situation in terms of like, well, how, where can I save bits of money that I'm spending every month. So for instance, during the lockdown, obviously I've been at home. I've subscribed to Sky Sports so I can watch football whenever I want, Formula One whenever I want, I can watch. I've subscribed to Netflix for some reason. I don't watch Netflix. I've subscribed to Amazon Prime. Don't watch Amazon Prime. It's like I subscribe to so many things which I'm just going, I'm paying for my gym membership even though I'm not actually at the gym. And I think it's a strange one that because I'm in lockdown, I feel like, right, okay, I'm saving a bit of money by not going in my car and taking and fuels. Stuff it I get. I'll go out and, no, not go out, but or something in like Domino's or something. And I'm like, where can I save this money to protect in the future? Because and that's where something changed during that lockdown. So I've got rid of Netflix, me, Amazon Prime, and stuff that I don't use. The gym membership's still there, but I'm just going to get rid of that. But the price of a haircut you mentioned there. I went to have my haircut yesterday. Cost me £10. If I went to a normal barber's, it was 15. So I'm thinking, well, I'm saving money there. So it's a strange, changing and chopping and changing to get the best outcome is, I think, the best way.
Yeah, you've got to look for different ways and everything. But like you just said about all the different direct debits of different media services that you're streaming, and all of a sudden you forget about them, but you're not using them all. So there is so many different avenues where you can actually end up saving good money. What top tips or what advice would you give to someone, Adrija, for trying to save some extra money? Because I know as university students, we're quite savvy with money, and I think a lot of us manage quite small, tight budgets quite well.
Yeah, we do. Well, I've not really been using it during lockdown because I've kind of been staying at home with my family. But one technique I did use was I'd make sure at least once a week I'd have a day where I just didn't spend anything except for essentials, so transport. Pretty much that was it for me in terms of essentials. So I'd always have, because for me, I feel like my issue was every day I'd spend like a lot of money on little things.
Yeah.
So for example, I'd get I'd get a coffee in the morning when I'm going to uni, and then I'd just buy little snacks throughout the day and little bits, and it just like adds up, that money. You don't really think about it when it's 99p, but that one drink every day when you're at university, it kind of adds up. So I'd make sure that I'd kind of buy in bulk, say bottles of water that I can bring into work or university, and ensure that like one day a week at least, I wouldn't spend any extra money.
Yeah.
And that really helped. Because, yeah.
I think a lot of things to do with saving money, it's got to be a conscious decision. And you've got to think about it yourself, about how you're going to go around saving money. Because for a lot of us, we shy away from conversations about money or saving because people see it as a stressful conversational topic. And it's something that you do need to discuss and find different ways of, different avenues of actually saving money. And for me, I did a similar thing at uni. I just made sure that weekly, only a small amount, I think it's £5 a week, went to a different account. So by the end of the year, at least you had some type of saving. Now £5 a week is five coffees. And I know so many people, myself included, I'd always try and get a coffee in the midday, and sometimes you need it. Do you know what I mean? You can't just be so stringent that you're not having the appropriate food or water. But there is a lot of ways to save money. If you're getting a Domino's pizza and it's costing you £10-15, it all adds up very quickly. I mean, fast food and food at university is such a great cost. So it is a massive one to think about. And I know Dave said earlier that there is actually a lot of sort of money saving apps. And one thing that I did install during the university was a money box save app, and it was basically it rounded everything up that you spent to a sensible degree. So you might have only spent 20-30 pence more each time, but every time you did it, it saved that 20 or 30p into an account that you'd set up with them. So I think Dave was mentioning earlier, like £1.99, it charged you £2 for it, and 1p would go to an account. Or if it was like £1.70, it charged you 30p. And I did that, and it is surprising because everything then comes through as whole amount. So you know that a coffee costs £2, not £1.70, or a burger might have cost you £4, not £3.60, and it ends up making everything sort of whole numbers, which in a way makes it a bit more reflective because you don't get scammed by psychology of prices, because everything you see nowadays is 98 or 99p, and it obviously reduces the overall cost of it in your mind. So I think that app was actually a really good idea, and one that I would definitely recommend downloading.
I think one of the biggest things is as well, using those apps for small purchases. I think is great because, like as you say, it's we make smaller purchases more than we make the big purchases, and we're more conscious about the cost when it's a bigger purchase. And I think as well, when we have, say, go to Tesco, get some food, I don't really think about the cost so much there. I just go get what I need, bring it back, do whatever with it, and that's done. It doesn't really get recorded anywhere. When it's a bigger purchase, it becomes a lot bigger. But what I've noticed is, obviously, you make those little purchases more, it balances itself out. So as you said, like, that's £13.70, adding up to around the £5,000 mark. That's a car, and for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and I think
definitely.
It's
a car or house deposit. Half of a house deposit or going towards that.
100%. I think we forget that those are, they're little costs that do add up. And I think it's, I now what I do is I try to record every single cost that goes out of my account and figure out whether it's a small cost or a big cost. And that's having something aside for emergencies as well, which is, when we talk about the coronavirus situation, personally I've been very fortunate, but for others, obviously, the coronavirus has had a massive impact, and having that aside to rely on during these kind of unprecedented times is really important. I think so. Little techniques like the apps I have a spreadsheet with my own finances on, so that's a good way of doing it, I find. And also just like say, thing is as well, we always pay for convenience. That's what we pay for a lot. We pay to make our lives easier. So I think when we're talking about going out and having a takeaway, or that, it's like I've been doing as well. It's quite easy to do that because it's just a tap away. So you pay for that to be done for you, and it's a bit of a treat. But I found that during the lockdown, I've been spending less money because of that, and going to Tesco, getting some food, and doing my own cooking at home.
That's the best thing you can do. You can always cook from home and buy budget, and get own brand labels and everything like that from your supermarkets. And when you are also buying other things, look at price comparison sites and trying to get cash back on lots of different things. If you use, I think it's called Quidco, you can get cash back on pretty much everything. I bought car insurance and got £50 cash back. So I don't know, 3 months later you get £50. And I don't really know how they work, but you do get the money back. So you're grateful of it in the end, and sometimes end up adding up. And a lot of people now, you'll probably find that charity shops will be absolutely booming with lots of thrown out, often very useful, very, very nice clothes. But people will have been sorting through them all during lockdown. And for a lot of it's just either fashion trends have changed, or that they just don't particularly like that. But it'd be perfectly suitable for you. So that's when I was saying earlier, like, for a lot of people, money can be an elephant in the room, or stigma can come with money, because people sometimes feel that trying to save money can be sort of stingy with money or uptight, but really you're just trying to be money savvy. And I think that's a really good thing to have, and going to charity shops and buying different things, or buying second-hand objects online off Gumtree, and trying to actually save money correctly, making sure that you're not gambling or as such wasting your money. Although it can provide entertainment and fun to a lot of people. Those types of it's not a hobby. Those types of actions, I suppose, they need to be monitored, and you need to be really honest with yourself when it comes to spending. So I think for us all, if there's one thing to take away from this conversation and this podcast, it is just sort of openly talk about money with your friends and your family and your loved ones and housemates and people that you're around. Because if you genuinely look at how you're spending money, then you might reflect on ways that you can save and feel a lot more economically free, and a lot less stressed with it all.
I think there's nothing wrong. I mean, obviously, being financially independent is really important, and I think it's great to be financially independent. But there's always that. I think it's one of the things you mentioned there about talking to family members and that sort of thing about it, and talking to friends even as well. And what you'll find, what you probably find is there's more. People in either in a similar situation as yourself, or are willing to offer some support and guidance. And I think, we treat it as this taboo topic that we can't talk about with family. And we talk, and we try and take money out of every situation, take money talk away from every situation. I think it was, I can't remember which organisation did it, but they called it the M word. And they're trying to get families talking about money. It was a campaign. I think it might have been nationwide, but I can't remember. And I think it's, stuff like that is really important. Taking that opportunity to spend that time with your family, to go, I'm really struggling at the moment. Is there any way of having some support, or let's find a way for you to save money or whatever, And at the end of the day, that financial worry then will become easier.
Yeah, it will become a lot easier, and a lot more comfortable to talk about. But no, I think it's been a really interesting podcast and an interesting conversation with you both today. So thank you for coming on and talking about the M word, which is money. It's been insightful. So a big thank you to you both.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks,
Thanks,
Judy.
Alex. Thanks, Dave.
And I hope to speak to you both soon. Make sure that you take care, and we'll have another podcast soon. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, guys.